All right, we are live. Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Deconversion Stories. And today I am talking with Justin, who's also known as the Empathetic Atheist. There's a link to his podcast down below on SoundCloud. If you're interested in listening to what he's got done so far, he does plan on having some interviews in some point soon. And we were just kind of joking around about some lady that he had asked him to be on his show at one time, where she thinks that she is the reincarnation of Jesus. So why don't we start with that for a little bit, have a little fun with that, and then we'll get into your actual story.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So basically I'm part of about 10 or 15 different Facebook religious debate groups. And I come across this lady who's frequently replying to atheist posts. And she's always putting up these pictures of these African tribal monuments that she's been mailed to her from anonymous people. Right. And she has a way to tie everything together to try and bring Donald Trump down and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, she's 52 years old and she believes that she is the flesh and blood of Jesus Christ. And like I was telling you before, the real kicker with this is she has two sons. And one of them, who's about 14 or 15, is an atheist. So, entails he doesn't even believe in his own mom. And that's she wants me to have her on for an interview, and she wants to try and reel me into whatever conspiracy she's got going on.
I say do it.
Yeah. Bring them, like you said, bring them both on.
Yeah, the son too, so they can go at it back and forth.
You gotta. Okay, am I the referee now? But yeah, she has told me numerous times, and I told her, I was like, I don't know if I should have you on because I don't know if you're a Poe. I don't know if people will think you are a Poe. I really, it's up in the air right now whether I'm actually going to have her on or not. But if I can find some way to make it seem like she really thinks like she's legit, then I'll most likely end up doing it. But
I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
like that's something you could definitely have a lot of fun with, especially when you're live on the air.
yeah. And yeah, hopefully it gets to that day to where I can actually, be live like yourself.
Oh, it's easy peasy, man.
Yeah. So yeah, I come across those kind of people in our discussions quite a bit. None that actually say that they're the reincarnation of Jesus Christ, but I also have I do HVAC as my day job. So I'm in people's houses all the time. Should have brought my N95 mask with me. Because of this damn coronavirus crap.
But if you have facial hair, those things don't work for shit.
No, they really don't. But I have this one client who is pretty much everything wrapped into one. He believes that he is Buddha. He believes that he died in 1971 and went into the void, went into the abyss. And I go to this guy's house just because I like talking to him. I don't let him know what my views, because when I'm in a uniform, I don't talk about religion or politics just for professional reasons. But I'll sit there and he will talk my ear off for 3 hours about him being Buddha and how he died, and everything will come to light here soon. I love those people.
Well, they're the most interesting ones too, aren't they?
Absolutely, yeah. They're different. They definitely give you a different story than the normative, you got to have faith type, conversations that you have.
Randy says those are for dust. Yes, they generally are. That's what I used to wear when I was in drywalling and painting. I used to wear the N95 mask, but apparently they are sealable. So like if you don't have facial hair, you can actually seal the mask to your face and it would keep any germs out. Now, the problem with wearing just the mask to begin with is your eyes are still exposed. So unless you've got some sort of safety goggles, that virus can still get inside.
Yep, so, absolutely. And it's clearly states on the mask itself that it says that this is only meant for particles. It's not meant for viruses or anything like that. So I think it's just a peace of mind precautionary method that we have for our clients.
It's I mean, if you're sick, then wear a mask, because that way you're not spreading it outwards.
Absolutely.
Because you don't sneeze out of your eyes. So, well.
Yeah, I'm typically in about 4 houses a day. And Ohio actually just stated the shelter-in-place law that they just came out with as of midnight tonight. Everybody's supposed to be in their homes, but I'm what's considered HVAC is considered essential services. So I'm still going out and still going into people's houses. So we take our precautionary methods. We wear our gloves, we wear our masks and whatnot, just to make sure that I don't know where these other people have been that I'm going into their houses. I mean, and that's the biggest thing, is that I don't want to go into somebody's house and then step into a 78-year-old guy's house with heart issues and give it to him. So we're trying to take as much precautionary methods as we can.
It's kind of, I have a friend of mine who's going, oh, who fucking cares? If I get sick, I'll get over it. And I go, yeah, but you could pass it on to somebody you care about and kill them. So stop it.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually think, and my wife's the hypochondriac, not me, but I actually think that possibly earlier this month or late last month, I actually had it, because I was sick with flu-like symptoms for about a week and a half. Mm-hmm. And the antibiotics that I was taking didn't really seem like they were helping. I pretty much just had to fight through whatever it was that I was, having at the time. I don't know if I had it or not. Hopefully I did, because they're stating that they believe that you're immune to it after you have it for a certain period of time. So, I mean, if that's the case, then cheers.
Until it mutates. Right?
Yeah.
Then you got to fight it all over. But however, your body and your antibodies are used to the core of the virus as it is. So any mutations, it'll be a lot easier to fight it off the second time.
Yep.
She says, Jasmine says she's not a hypochondriac.
Oh.
There you go. Whoops. What the hell am I doing here? I've lost control of my own show here, guys.
Uh-oh.
I usually have banners that I fly, but I haven't updated them yet, because I've gotten a few more Patreons, which is awesome. So thanks to everyone who's a patron. Every little bit counts, and it helps me. Now, I found that Patreon tends to keep whatever money you earn and then pay off your Patreons. The people so the money's going to those people right now until I get enough where I can actually make some back from it. So they do it automatically for some reason. I don't know if I can change that, but they do that.
I never really too much.
Do you have a Patreon, by the way?
I do not.
Something you should think about.
Most definitely.
Once you start that YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
Which he doesn't have yet, guys, but he will soon. And when he does, he'll give me the link, and I'll add it to the description box below for people that watch this in the future. All right, so Justin, let's get into the story of your journey away from religious belief.
That's a good story. It's one of my favorites.
Once upon a time.
Basically, I grew up in a religious household. It wasn't extremely religious, depending on what side of the family I was in. Mm-hmm. My father's side of the family is pretty hardcore Catholic, and my mother's side of the family was still to this day is one of those who don't know a lick of the Bible, but they believe because they want to see their ancestors when they die.
Right.
So I started off at a public school, going out to school with all the kids in my neighborhood, and second grade hit, and my teacher forgot my name on one of my papers that she graded. She said something like, "Well, Jonathan is doing great in class," and my mom was like, "No, I'm done with this." So I ended up going to a Catholic school for 7 years.
Oh, joy.
Church 3 times a week. And this was a very fundamentalist church. It was all about, going by the book, the fear of hell instilled in all the children. If you don't act this way, and if you don't be this certain type of person, you will be hung from your tongue above fire and brimstone.
Quick question. After your deconversion, did that fear of hell still cling to you for a little while?
Yes, for a couple years.
Okay. I hear that quite often.
Until I really got into Pascal's wager and really thought about that. And that kind of cleared it up for me.
Yeah. Wait a minute. What am I afraid of?
Yeah.
Fuck you, Pascal.
Yeah. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, Pascal was a great mathematician. How did he not get the probability? If it's not a 50-50 chance, it's a 1 in, let's just say, 1,000 God claims. Have I worried about the Hindu hell? Have I worried about the Muslim hell? Have I worried about all these other hells of these other God claims?
Apparently, the Chinese.
Really thought about it, I was like, they can't. I've heard by one of my favorite atheists. He says that they can't all be right, but they can all be wrong.
That's right.
And that's kind of what really cleared it up for me. But yeah, so I was going to school for 7 years there. I had religion class every single day. And eventually I got to about 7th grade, and it was just a little hardcore for me. And I wanted to play with my friends. I wanted to be a kid. I wanted, I didn't want to, I don't know really how to put it. I didn't want to be the type of person that only wanted to be a good person because I needed to get somewhere. I wanted to be a good person just because I wanted to be a good person. And that all goes back to being a humanist, basically. And I didn't know that at the time because I had just basically reached that age of reason. Mm-hmm. And so I eventually told my mom, I said, hey, can I go to a public school like the one where all my friends go to that I live with, like in my neighborhood? And it'll save you about $4,000 a year. And you can send me to public school and I'll be totally fine with that. So eventually, the start of my 8th grade year, I went to a public school, and some of my friends that I was hanging out with, they went to a Christian church. I think it was Methodist church. And I tried that out for a while. Like I said, I've been playing guitar for a while, and I ended up joining the youth group. I ended up joining the band, the church band. So I would play on Sundays and whatnot. And it was cool having that, society, having that group of people around me. And you can ask, my wife, when I dive into something, I try and dive in full-fledged, full force with everything that I got. So I really dove into the Bible. And while I was diving into the Bible, that is the #1 book to create an atheist. And just the Old Testament blew me away. And I was like, I never heard any of this shit in mass on Sunday. Yeah. All these sermons just stuck around the 4 gospels, stick to the narrative, don't do anything different. Just Jesus died for our sins, and that's it, period. And I was reading all these stories about, some kids calling Elijah, Baldy, and then 2 bears come out of nowhere and maul 42 innocent children to death. And I'm like, what the fuck? So I dove into it as much as I could, and in hopes that maybe one day I would be able to, start preaching. And it went the opposite way. I did a 180, and for actually a really long time, I wasn't outspoken about my atheism. Atheism, I've been outspoken for 2 years, maybe 2.5.
That's not too bad, though.
A lot of the times I was really worried about, what people would think of me, what friends I was going to keep, what family was going to shun me away. Because like I said, half of my family was pretty big in Catholicism. Mm-hmm. And I honestly, on top of that, just didn't want to see the flack that, that I was going to get, and the lectures that I would receive because I'm questioning. So I did that for a while. Stayed quiet about it. Joined the military when I was 19. I deployed to Afghanistan in 2011, and I kept hearing, no atheists in a foxhole. You never seen one before. Right. And I'm quietly hearing in the back of my mind, like, well, you're talking to one right now. And, getting into situations to where a lot of people drop to their knees, but at no point in time did I think, well, I need to have God save me now.
You need to get right with God.
Yeah, you got to get right with God. You got to make sure that that when the time comes for you to go up to the pearly gates, that you're ready for it, and that you fully repented. And at that point in time, I was just nodding my head, give it the yep, and did that for quite a while until about 2.5 years ago, to where I met one of my buddies who actually we are starting up a podcast that I don't think anybody has ever tried before, not to my knowledge. But we were mechanics at a Chevy dealership, and he was in apologetics, and he was sitting there on his computer and the speaker, and I saw, I think it was a debate on God's existence between Christopher Hitchens and William Lane Craig.
Oh, joy. Excellent.
And was listening to that, and then me and him just started going back and forth. We're working in bays right next to each other, working on cars, and we'd spend 8 hours a day just having debates and arguments. And I was like, hey, this is cool. I met somebody that I can talk to, that I don't really have to worry about, them sticking their finger in my face, shunning me out of their life. He had his questions, and he was into apologetics, and I was like, this is great. This is therapeutic. This is like, this guy's going to be my best friend. And we did that for a while, and we're actually going to be doing a podcast that he's kind of in charge of called The Battle for Truth, to where every single episode, it won't just be an interview every now and then of somebody, but it'll be every single episode, it'll be a different topic.
Right.
So every Thursday night, he runs an apologetic class at his church. And he invites me to be the token atheist, to be the devil's advocate sitting in the corner for the rest of the class. So they can get a taste of what, they're going to experience in the real world when they come across somebody with my views. So he's really the one that unlocked the, put the key in the lock and unlocked the world of me diving into this. And I had done my studying for quite a few years, but never really knew of the debate world, never really knew that atheists exist so abundantly, just because most of the people that I interact with just don't give a fuck. I don't care if there's a God. I don't care if there's not. Doesn't matter to me. So I dove into that, and that's pretty much what brings me to where I am now, to where I seek good conversation. And I've been part of so many of these groups that I see a lot of people, especially on my side, not exactly getting a fruitful conversation. They go into it a little hostile, and the name calling and all that stuff. And I understand when you get to a certain point, you kind of lose your temper. And, according to 1 Peter 3:15, that Christian right there is supposed to defend his faith and defend his beliefs with empathy, with, peacefulness and kindness. So what I want to do is try and help the atheist world kind of have a better grasp on how to have conversations with people, and so we don't be portrayed as baby eaters. Because I don't know, I can't tell you how many times I've heard of that. Oh yeah, you're an atheist baby eater. So that's basically what brings me to where I am now, and I'm loving it. I see conversation all day long. Like I said, this is therapeutic to me.
Well, that's good, right? So what kind of an effect did this have, like with your friends and family sort of thing?
Well, when I came out, my parents, my dad is Catholic, but he's kind of like the peacekeeper of the family. He's real calm and he's understanding. So basically he was just like, if that's the choice you want to make, you have the free will to make that choice, and do what you got to do. And hopefully one day Christ will find you. And my mom, she was a little more upset than that. She was, she was sitting here like, but don't you want to believe that, you're going to see your grandfather when you die? And I said, absolutely. I absolutely want to believe that, but wanting to believe something is different from actually knowing that it's true.
That's right.
And I've gotten to the point to where I know not to talk about this stuff with my family. They will never see this video. They will never search for it. They'll never bring it up to me. I did have a few friends that I don't really speak to anymore, because it's friends that I was in the military with, friends that I've been through some hard times with, and
really
because I don't believe anymore, they don't really want anything to do with me.
Wow.
Basically, you stick to your clique, and if somebody doesn't want to be part of your clique, then you're not part of their life anymore.
Yeah, but these are like brothers in arms, and I find that kind of really weird, because usually there's a camaraderie that just doesn't end regardless.
There is a camaraderie, and I question them about that. But when you look at the umbrella, it starts with God, and then the husband, and then the wife, and then family and friends. So I'm down here at the fourth tier while God's up here. And my issue with them was, I'm right here. Please show me where God is.
Yeah.
And, like, I'm your brother. You've physically seen me help you through hard times, and you've helped me through hard times. I don't see where the disconnect is here. But, it is what it is, and they have their beliefs, and, I don't blame them, because a lot of times I feel like almost every person I talk to is a victim of some sort. I feel like I was a victim of child indoctrination. I've been baptized, communion, confession, the whole works. And I believe this stuff just because I grew up not knowing that not believing it was a possibility.
Kind of like baptized, so you're saved anyway. So.
I know, right? Yeah, there's some that believe that.
I know.
There's a movie that's out. It's on Netflix right now. It's called The Invention of Lying. I don't know if you ever seen it before.
Yeah, that's Ricky Gervais, is it not?
Yeah, yep. And it's an absolutely hilarious movie.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I can relate that to me growing up. Like, they didn't know that a lie could exist. Right. I didn't know that not believing in God existed. Right. And then I learned about, all the other religions in school, and I was like, it's a bunch of baloney. And then once I got older and reached the age of reason, I sat down and was like, could my shit be baloney too?
Yes. Just like you were talking about earlier, where if all of them could be wrong, then this could be wrong too. If all the other ones, right? I
mean, what's the chances that we got the right answer? Yeah. And, science always comes up with new answers, not really conclusions. And that's where the disconnect with the believers is that they believe, or they see that science is telling us conclusions when it's really just giving us the best model that we have with the technology we have in the reality that we currently live in.
Sure. But science does have some conclusions.
Yeah. They have conclusions
based on evidence.
Yeah. Based on evidence, based on empirical facts about the reality we live in. So,
like, one of those would be like gravity. We know that is a thing.
Yeah, and that's normally the number one rebuttal I get. Well, you can't see gravity. How do you know it exists? And I just take something and I drop it. And I said, this will drop 9.8 meters per second squared every single time I try and do it. Please show me other ones.
Right. Except for those little floaty things on the flowers and feathers. Yeah, pretty much.
Well, yeah. Yep.
But anything that has resistance to that sort of thing is going to do that anyways.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that's the basic conversations that I have every single day. Faith, how do you know that you don't have faith that this chair is going to hold you up? Well, how many times have I sat down in a chair? Isn't that considered evidence? Isn't that many times sitting in this chair evidence building up on why I know that I can trust this for the most part?
Yeah. You got to have faith to be an atheist, I'll tell you that.
Right? I think,
or at least they think that.
What's his name? Frank Turek. He's got that book, I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist.
Yes, he does. I have not read it. I don't really care because Turek's kind of... no, I've got all the good books. I'm in hard copy and audible, so that if I'm not at home, I can still read or listen to the same book I was just
Audible has done so many good things for me, because I start reading a book and I'll get 3 pages in and my eyes will start glazing over and I'll fall asleep. But I do HVAC during the day, so most guys will sit there and listen to music in their truck. I'm listening to debates. I'm reading books. I'm reading, Neil deGrasse Tyson books. Brian Greene's got some good books when it comes to like astrophysics and quantum mechanics and things like that.
Yes.
I mean, things that'll help bolster, help me back up, science, and help me back up critical thinking and reasoning.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what it all boils down to for me.
I think my friend Jackson Wheat just released a book with his buddy Roland, or whatever the hell his name is. James Downard, whatever the hell his name is. It's about evolution and biology and stuff, which should be available actually on Audible pretty soon. I'll actually ask him because I chat with him from time to time.
I'll keep a look at it. If you got a link, send me a link to it, because like I said, I drive around all day and just listen to books and listen to debates all day.
Well, I think the book is still coming out. It's going to be released shortly. It's definitely a guy you should follow on Twitter for sure. Jackson Wheat, right? He knows his shit, man. It's like every time I get these believers that come in, but how do you know evolution's true? I said, well, the evidence pretty much points to it. Why don't you talk to somebody who's in the field? Because I'm just a hack-ass chemist. So why don't you talk to this guy over here?
How
knows all about that.
Completely lose somebody when they say, how do you know evolution is true? You forward them the 47 video collection of Arn Ra, the classification of species, and just be like, here you go. Come see me in 3 years.
Actually, I'm a patron of his too, so you'll see my name pop up in his videos when he does all that.
I saw Arn Ra. He was with what's his name? I'm gonna beat myself up for this. He's street epistemology.
Anthony Magnabosco.
Anthony Magnabosco, yeah. I saw Arn Ra attempt street epistemology.
Oh, you saw that one where he goes with him? Yeah, Arn just doesn't have the patience for that, right?
Not at all. He's like, no, fuck this. Like, for real.
Both of them are awesome guys. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
And stuff. Like, when I was at Faithless Forum last year, Arn would not let me be without a beer in my hand. Every time he's around, you're not holding a beer. I'm like, well, he's like, here, let's fix that. It was pretty damn cool.
Yeah, I think it was, I don't know if Arn Ra was there. I know Matt Dillahunty was there in Cincinnati a couple months ago, probably about 6 or 7 months ago. He was up here, and unfortunately I had to work and I couldn't make it to it, and I beat myself up over that because I was like, man, I'm really trying to get to one of these get-togethers with all these atheists, because
I feel you about it.
From coming out and doing my studies, I'm just now getting into the world of other atheists and getting out on the internet and whatnot. And I was like, man, I'm really trying to get to one of these, but it doesn't seem like they're ever really in my area.
Well, if you can get to the Faithless Forum, dude, that would be fucking awesome, because I'm actually, that's usually, this year it's being held in Austin. At least I haven't heard that it's been canceled yet.
Okay.
It's not till June. It's not till June, so it may still go ahead depending on how things go.
Okay.
And I'm actually on the panel of speakers this year.
Really?
Yeah. So, I even got fucking, look at this fucking box full of stickers that I just got printed up here.
You said that on one of your last shows. You ordered like 500 stickers.
Yeah, 500 stickers. I like them better because these are the original ones that I did, which look like this, right? So, this is like the last one I have of those. But I decided this year, let's try something a little different. So I made them square with the black background, and it actually makes that picture pop out a little more, I think, by doing that. So I'm pretty pleased with that. If you're not going to get me drunk at my buddy Bible Belt Atheist. By the way, guys, Justin is new on Twitter. So go to my profile. And you'll see the tag that I did with him here for the show, and go follow him, because he's only got, at last count, he had 3 followers: me, Jen Aldris, and Nacha Witness.
Yeah, I just made that Twitter account like an hour ago.
Yeah, like literally before we went live, I'm like, you should have a Twitter, because you can spam shit on Twitter and people will see it and they will follow your podcast. They'll follow you. They'll follow your YouTube channel when you get it going. And because lots of people out there that follow me, so I'll help you definitely get more notice in that respect. And
Absolutely.
So can Jan.
I appreciate that.
And my friend IQ here, who's my moderator extraordinaire, as I call him. He'll probably want to be in the after party, so you'll get to have a chat with him too.
Cool.
Because he's in Cincinnati too, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So I have to have lunch sometime.
Yeah.
After this coronavirus.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to eat the virus, you know.
All right.
As long as you lift up the mask and shovel food in and put it back. You should be all right. Yeah. So, all right, let's get into the podcast, man. Let's talk a bit about the podcast, because I want to. You've done a few episodes.
Yep.
So let's talk about kind of the stuff that you've already covered and what you have on deck, we'll say, for your upcoming shows that you're going to be doing.
Okay, so the first episode, the launch episode, is basically just me saying, this is basically almost my deconversion story, and how I think and what the podcast is for and what you can expect out of it.
I got to catch up.
I've done a podcast about, and my podcast normally stick to around about 20 minutes. I kind of look at statistics, and there's some people that like really long podcasts, but for people on the run, they typically stick to around 20 minutes. So I like to keep my podcast around then, unless I'm having a discussion with somebody. 20 minutes is nowhere close to enough time to really dive into an argument. But my second episode is called Divinely Hidden. And that's a good episode. What's that?
That's a really good one, by the way.
Oh, you listened to it?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so yeah, so divinely hidden, basically, the argument from divine hiddenness, like why isn't God showing himself? What are the variables within the realm of this all powerful, all omnipotent God, and how can we tell that? What's the difference between this God that you can't prove and something that doesn't exist whatsoever? And like then unicorn. Yeah, unicorns. Those are rhinoceros.
We have narwhals.
Narwhal.
They've got the curly horn that sticks out of their heads. Actually, are there any left? I don't even know if they still exist.
I don't think so. I don't know for sure.
Google.
Yeah, Google always gives you the answer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't always trust Google, though. Well, it's a shame that we're in the age of the greatest information that you could ever get your hands on within this miniature computer in your hand. But half of the shit that you see is bad information. And I wish we could have a class like home economics in school that teaches you how to look up good sources, especially when it comes to politics. Everybody wants to stick to a biased news station that they listen to, or a whatever it is. Try and look up something that's the least biased that you could possibly find, and with actual sources and credentials that comes with it. I mean, I'm big into science, and I'm big into peer review and whatnot. Those things don't get published until they've been tested properly. And I feel like trying to find information on the internet is the same thing. You need to find reasonable sources that have given you good information in the past and go off of that.
Mm-hmm. So narwhals do exist still. They live mostly up here around Greenland, Canada, and Russia. Mm-hmm. It is one of two living species of the whale family Monodontidae, which, along with the beluga whale, but in the case of narwhals, it's the tooth of the male that grows into a giant horn.
Oh, okay.
So there you go. And then they still exist. They're out there.
They always got that joke. Well, the unicorns just didn't make it on the ark that day.
That's right. There's actually a meme or a picture where they got like dinosaurs and dragons and fairies and unicorns and shit. They go, "Fuck, we got the wrong message" or something. Like they missed the time.
So that is another good. I think it's a 7 or 8 video series by Aaron Ra, him debunking the Noah's flood. That is a fun watch.
Yeah. And of course, his going back and forth with Hovind is fucking hilarious too.
Inmate 67483 says,
yeah.
But yeah, that second episode's kind of about the argument from divine hiddenness, and then I go into an episode. I think it was the last episode that I posted. It's about faith, and that's one of the main things that that I talk to on Thursday nights. Whenever I am at these apologetics meetings, it all comes down to faith every single time. When you break, it either starts with faith, or when you break down that entire argument and get down to the fundamentals on what you actually believe, it gets down to well, you just got to have faith. Well, is this blind faith? Is this what? Define your terms. What does faith mean to you?
Right.
And a lot of times they'll say, well, it's trust and confidence. And I'm like, so why the fuck not
colloquially
trust and confidence? There are already words that exist that explain what you're trying to say
without having to use
the word faith. You are muddying the waters, and you're disagreeing with, well, not disagreeing. There's many parts of the Bible that state that you can interpret faith as trust and confidence. But
Sure.
I typically focus around Hebrews 11:1. That says faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen.
Unseen. Yes, right.
So if it's the evidence of things unseen, that means in my mind, there's just no good reason to believe in whatever you're having faith in. I don't have faith that my wife's going to be loyal to me. I have evidence of years and years of her being a trustworthy person to where I can, without reasonable doubt, believe that she's going to be, loyal to me. Mm. So it always boils down to that chair.
Or faithful. She's going to be faithful. See, then you come up with words like that mean something exactly. Just like that, right? But I don't have a problem with that word, faithful. She's been faithful.
No, I don't because it's used as a figure of speech.
Sure, yeah.
And another, definition for faith is, well, what's your faith? Are you the Christian faith, the Muslim faith? There's so many different definitions for the word faith. And I try and pinpoint it down to what does faith actually mean to this person that I'm talking to? And a lot of times they say, well, I'll say it's blind faith. And when we get into blind faith, then they start talking about, well, my faith isn't blind. It is, based on evidence. Okay, so your belief is based on faith and your faith is based on evidence, Why don't we just get rid of the middleman? Your belief is based on evidence. Show me your evidence. Then it goes right back to the beginning. And
I just have faith.
Yeah, and then I point out the circular reasoning and the special pleading, and sometimes there's been a few times to where I've gotten people to be like, the guy that I talked to, he's like, I got to go home and I got to look at this some more, and I got to come back, next week with some answers for you. And I'm glad when that happens. I respect that. I respect when somebody, when somebody's honest enough in their belief to say, hey, I don't have an answer for you, because a lot of the times us on the atheist side or the secular side tend to say, I don't know, because we're honest enough to say we currently don't have an answer for this question that you have right now.
Right.
But we are currently working on trying to find out what that answer is. So I really respect believers when they say, I don't know, let me go home. Let me look through this. A lot of times,
actually honest answer, right?
Absolutely. And I respect that. And a lot of times it's to go home and to work through the pages and interpret it a different way, to try and justify whatever,
interpret it a different way. This is why we have so many denominations of Christianity.
There's tons of different denominations. And I believe there's a bunch of different denominations because people want to believe in the God that they've already framed inside of their own head.
Right. Or something along those lines. Definitely.
Yeah. The guy that I talked to,
I like Korean Jesus.
Korean Jesus ain't got time for your shit. He's busy with Korean shit. So yeah, like for example,
he's a big fan of BTS, by the way.
Oh yeah, BTS. I gotta tell you, they got a couple catchy songs. I'll tell you,
they do. My roommate fucking loves them, and that's all she watches BTS fucking reaction videos. I'm like, do you use this tool for good? What's wrong with you?
Yeah, BTS. I got introduced to them about a year ago, and they got some catchy stuff. I don't know what the hell they're saying, but that one video they got with Halsey in it, that is a good song.
Yeah. Oh, there's a few that I dig, actually. My musical tastes the spectrum is wide. I love everything from just a few types of music. Like, I'm not a huge fan of opera, yet there are a couple that I really like. Mm-hmm. But one of them's in Klingon, so there you go, Klingon operas. But yeah, man, if it sounds good and I like it, because people put their heart and soul into their music. Or soul, I know souls aren't real people; it's just
right.
But we use that word a lot in music, actually. But right, so I used to work at a record store, and oh, this is shit, and I go, why? It's just not something you like. You could call it that, but you don't have to call it shit, because that's someone's hard work. I know, I'm a musician. I put lots of work into music, right? So when I hear people say shit like that, it pisses me off.
Yeah. There's a certain line of respect you got to have for anybody that puts the time together to pull those strings and to pull the drums and to pull the voice all together in one. Yeah, and right. A lot of people that just listen to music and don't play it, don't realize the feeling that you get in the middle of a jam session.
Oh, fuck. It's so cool sometimes. When something just goes like, especially when we're writing new tunes, and then all of a sudden we're like an hour into writing it, and we're like, we finished the whole song. We're like, holy shit, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And you get that feeling. That's like the best.
Yep. I've been looking since I got, a family now. I'm a family man. I cut all my hair off. I used to have hair as long as yours back before the military, and I was in a heavy metal band.
Nice.
And now I don't really have anybody to jam with, so I'm saving up for a loop station, so I can just loop everything together.
That's too bad. If you live near me, man, I'd say come out to the jam space and fucking plug along.
I'd totally be down. At one point in time, my nickname was CC DeVille because I had 13 guitars, all lined up.
Shit.
Ibanez's. I had some
BC Rich.
I had a BC Rich Ironback Platinum Pro series that I actually picked up from I picked it up from a pawn shop for $300 because the dude didn't know what the fuck he had. Yeah,
those are like $3,000+ guitars.
They stopped making them in 1979. It was yellow with yellow and black with the rosewood neck, Floyd Rose and everything. Oh my gosh. I was like $300. Yeah,
you guys
let me get that.
But I have a boner right now.
After I bought it, I told him, I was like, you should look this up on the internet and see how much it goes for. As I walk out the store with it.
$300.
You missed a zero in there, bud.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, he probably could have gotten away with selling it for a couple grand. At a pawn shop.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Easy.
Absolutely. I also had a 1969 Gibson SG Angus Young edition.
Cool.
I got it for free.
Wow.
The only issue was that some fucking dumbass decided to spray paint it with a can of spray paint all white.
I've seen worse.
It's pretty expensive finding a very, very good paint stripper to bring it back to the original rosewood.
Yeah. That's why?
I think my dad still has it put away. I'm still figuring out
spray paint to do that.
Huh?
Who uses fucking spray paint to do that?
I have no clue. I mean, like, unless they didn't notice what they had in their hands.
Obviously a rookie.
Like, I mean, I've had some Squires that I, spray painted all over.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're Squires, they're Fender knockoffs.
Yeah, exactly.
But
$200 guitars for fuck's sakes. The spray paint probably costs more.
You're paying for the case. That's what you're paying for the embroidery of the case of the Strat Pack.
Exactly.
But yeah, so back to the podcast. The last one's about faith. The future episodes that I have coming up, I have one that I did more of an interview with my buddy that we're going to be doing another podcast with.
Great.
I would have already had it uploaded, but I had to figure out how to get into my editing format system and bring that video down to an MP3 to be able to edit it out. Because at one point in time, I mentioned one of his jobs that he wasn't exactly comfortable with me mentioning in the video. So I couldn't just post it on YouTube or anything. I had to figure out a way how to edit it out. So I finally got that on there, but I'm going to be having conversations with people as in, I got a buddy who is an evolutionary biologist. I have a client of mine that would love to talk to come on and do an interview. And she is an actual psychiatrist, and she dives really into what people think, why people come to the conclusions they do psychologically. Right. And I feel that's very interesting. Not only just sitting here having arguments about does God exist or not, that can sometimes get boring, and you need to dive into some other things to try and help, it hopefully will help some people's arguments if they understand why people believe what they believe, and then some of the scientific background that comes with it, and be able to properly explain to theists what the Big Bang Theory is, because they always get it wrong.
Oh yeah, every time.
They always mush in abiogenesis with the Big Bang Theory
and everything,
and evolution, and it's all one big chewed up thing of bubble gum that they try and throw at you, and it pisses me off to no end. So the more I can try and understand it myself, and then have somebody with some type of credentials or a lot of information or a lot of experience within that field, it can help some people out if they listen to my podcast.
Yeah, sounds awesome. And by the way, I can very much help you out getting some of the more well-known people in those fields onto your show.
Absolutely. I would love that.
I'm happen to be friends with people like Aaron, Anthony Magnabosco, Hector Garcia, who's also written a book.
Yep.
And these are guys that you should have on talking about the stuff that they've done too, as well, because I've already taken care of their deconversion story.
See, me as the little guy, I think Aaron Ra, I think Michael Shermer, Matt Dillahunty, cool. They're like the rock stars up on the stage, and I'm just a little guy like, oh, I wish I could be you one day. Dude, and that's my goal. I'm trying to get up there.
You will in time, as long as your product is something that people want to consume. Eventually, you'll get there. And you've made a friend in me, and I have other influential people, I guess, in my life. Like everyone from, like I've hung out at Matt Dillahunty's house, for fuck's sakes. Oh, so okay, so and he's just a regular guy, right? Him and me and Genetically Modified Skeptic, or Drew, did one of Drew's songs in his living room at Matt's place, and Christina Rad, I'm not sure if you're familiar with her, but she videotaped it and popped it up. She's one of the people that actually Lawrence Krauss made a move on.
Really?
And she talks about that in one of her videos, actually. So
okay.
Yeah. She's a sweetheart. Christina's awesome.
Have you ever gotten in touch with Crocoduck?
I have not. I've talked to him like through messaging and stuff like that, but I do. Him and Rhino, fucking Vice Rhino. He's like, oh yeah, I'll come on your show someday, and he still just hasn't. We haven't wrangled something up yet. But he's a fellow Canadian, so I want him on my show. Right, because I've had Paula Gia, I've had Shanna Q, I've had Godless Cranium, all these Canadian folks, my fellow Knuckleheads. I've had them all on, and he's like the holdout. Him and Logic are the holdouts for Canadian content makers. But really, I think the one guy that I'd love to have on the show, but he's super busy. Shannon actually just did some voice work for him, is Dark Matter 2525.
Okay.
I'd love to have him on the show. And I'm trying to get a hold of a guy who's called Drunken Philosophy, who does mostly philosophical stuff about atheism on his channel. And he hasn't done much lately. He's only had like a couple of videos in the past 6 months. So he might be taking a hiatus, but I've emailed him before and we just never got back in touch. But I'd love to have him on the show too, because he's a pot smoker like me. So he's all,
hell yeah.
He's all about, he smokes them during his videos and stuff like that. It's great. And another one is Curious and More Curious. I'm not sure if you're familiar with his channel as well. But he's really, really good, and he's funny, and his videos are basic, really, but he's pretty fucking funny guy. So, and I'd love to. He's Canadian as well, so eventually I want to get him on. But doesn't really have much of a deconversion story. And when I have people like that on, like Rachel Oates will say, who didn't really have much of a deconversion story, we talk about influences of religion within our lives instead of deconversion, and like people that like trying to. I had a guy on. Who dipped his hand in some different religions to see what stuck, we'll say. And, so it's not always deconversions, but we do often talk about religious influences in our lives.
Okay. You kind of sparked something in my mind. So before coming on the show, I was like, all right, so I'm going to jot down all my notes, and I ended up not jotting down my notes. So there's a small portion that I'd like to possibly add here. Sure. So, I didn't want to be the guy that just wanted to be the atheist. I wanted to make sure that I didn't leave any stone unturned.
Sure.
So I actually started praying. I'm part of a Wiccan group.
Me too at one time.
Yeah, to where I talked to the Wiccans and they talked to me about their werewolf beings that run around during the night. And I've actually gotten in the shower and washed my hands a certain way and snorted water up my nose, and then found a app on my phone to be able to face Mecca. And I learned how to say in Arabic the 5 pillars of prayer. And I prayed to Allah, and I prayed to Krishna, and I prayed to pretty much the major gods that I can really get my hands on, just to make sure that I didn't get a fuzzy feeling at some time. And that was part of my that was part of my assuring myself that the position that I'm holding is the best one that I can so far.
Yes, indeed. Good way to put it.
At one point in time, I was an atheist, and I was working at this dealership, and my buddy handed me to what I now know is one of the most idiotic books that I've ever read. I don't, no disrespect towards him, I'm glad he handed me the book to read it, but it was the famous Case for Christ by Lee Strobel.
Oh boy.
And I read that, and that almost sealed the deal for me. Before that, I told my wife, I said we were in a bad spot. We were our finances were fucked. We were trying to pay bills, trying to do whatever we could, and we wanted to live comfortably. And I told her, I was like, "Hey, babe, we need to do something." And I think this was before I ever talked to my wife, like, about atheism, about how strongly I felt about it, or what.
Was she a believer?
So I'm gonna get there.
Okay.
So I told her, she had grown up in a Christian lifestyle. Her grandfather has his own church, and she grew up in the lifestyle of going to church every Sunday. Okay. I don't think it's his own church. I think he's the treasurer of the church, but he's heavily involved in his church.
He's got all the cash.
Yes. So that's why I always talk to him about church not having to pay taxes or anything like that. I kind of throw that little jab out there towards him every now and then. But yeah, so I told my wife, I was like, our life isn't going where it needs to go right now. And me not using reason, not using logic, was like, hey, and I'm almost embarrassed to say it. I was like, babe, we need to try this again. We need to see if it works. So I ended up for about a week trying to be a theist again. Netflix at the time had this show called The Bible on it that took you through the whole story of Exodus and everything like that. And I watched that, and it took about a week, and my wife was scared shitless because the minute that I told her, babe, we need to try this out, was the very second that she confirmed for herself that she was an atheist.
Uh-oh.
So she's like, oh, fuck. Here we go.
I'm so confused.
Like I said before, when I dive into something, I go in full force. And my wife, knowing that, and me telling her we need to try this out again, she's like, fuck.
Just swept the shit under the rug. What are you doing to me?
Yep. So it was about a week before I was like, fuck this. I know where I need to be. I know, what I need to believe and why I need to believe that. Right. My oldest daughter, she's 13 years old, and she currently is a Christian. She goes to church every Sunday. She goes to Bible school every Wednesday. Once again, another Matt Dillahunty quote. If you can't see that I fashioned Matt Dillahunty quite a bit. I listen to his Patreon project quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
And he says, I'd like people to teach their kids how to think, not what to think.
Right.
And that's exactly what I do with my daughter. And I can see some light bulbs popping up in her head. A couple months ago, she was at Bible study, and they were playing a Jeopardy game. And the Jeopardy game, he asked a question. The guy who was in charge asked a question. He's like, hey, so who does the devil portray in the Garden of Eden when Adam and Eve are deceived? And some other kid blurted out a snake or a serpent or something like that. And my daughter, having taught her how to ask questions, said, I'm sorry, how do you know that was the devil? And he flipped through his book for about 5 minutes and then closed the book and said, sweetheart, that's just what we believe. And then it was ding.
Yeah.
She was like, well, what else in this book do you just believe?
The
So
whole thing. And
So,
snakes can't talk, people.
I actually did read a book recently that my wife's grandfather gave me to read from one of his parishioners.
Mhm.
It was a book by Bart Ehrman,
Oh, yeah.
The Historicity of Jesus of Nazareth, basically showing that he was a man,
That's
and that he did exist.
yeah.
But I
Read some
pointed
Richard
out to him,
Carrier.
I pointed out to my wife's grandfather afterwards that I said, hey, so this book does explain how he could have existed as a man. When it comes to any of the divine things that are stated in the Bible, we still have no confirmation of that. It is only in the Bible. There's no exterior sources. And I was like, so I read the book. Here's the book. You can give it back to your guy, and I will send you some of Bart Ehrman's lectures on YouTube about where he talks about how scribal errors can create so many different issues with the Bible, and that we shouldn't take it as divine nature.
That's right.
But yeah, so yeah, my wife had quite a scare when I was like, hey, we need to get to this. We need to try something out. And she was like, I'm an atheist now.
Like, what the hell happened to you, man? You convinced me. Now I'm an atheist. Now you want to go back? Like,
Yep.
what?
So another thing that I kind of wanted to mention, a couple episodes ago, you did a interview with Atheist Pastor.
Indeed, I did. Yes.
And I found that very ironic, because I currently am I have the Gospel of the Flying Spaghetti Monster right here. I am an ordained minister within the faith of Pastafarianism. So
Excellent.
I have credentials and a plaque and everything to state that I can do marriages, sermons, baptisms, and the card even states that I can cast out false prophets. So I can do all of that.
Those are lasagna noodles. Those are false prophets.
Yes, and the book is a great laugh. The book has, instead of the 10 commandments, it has the 8 I rather wish you wouldn't. And it explains how global warming is directly intact with the amount of pirates that exist in our culture. So with the decline of pirates, there's been an incline in global warming.
Right.
So within the Pastafarian faith, people dress up as pirates and start talking to each other like pirates. And hopefully that brings global warming down. And they're the creation story of the Pastafarianists are that God first created the earth, and he created a beer volcano.
You mean FSM?
And the FSM. He created a beer volcano and a stripper factory. And then he realized that was too good for normal Earth. So he brought that up and he made that heaven, and then created this regular world. It's got so many things in that book that just I crack up every time I read it. But yeah, so if anybody is in Ohio and they don't want to conform to a religious belief and still get married to the person that they want to have a binding contract with, I'd be more than happy to to help her get half of your things when it's time to get divorced.
Oh, so you can handle the divorces too, right? So what is it like a Wiccan wedding where instead of like 7 ropes, they use noodles?
What's that?
Is it like a Wiccan wedding where instead of the 7 rope binding thing, they use noodles? Or
you know what? I might implement that. When I haven't done a wedding yet, and I'm looking forward to. I had one person that really wanted to do it, but they lived out in Washington State where I was stationed in the Army. And I said, I can't do anything. My credentials are for, Ohio only.
okay.
So unfortunately I couldn't do it for him. But
My friend,
I want to wear a colander. When it's time for me to get my license renewed, I'll definitely have a colander on my head and ready to go and see if anybody stops me.
Okay, so now my friend Puck and Inquisitive Quandary are like yelling at each other. Shut the puck up. Apparently Puck and IQ are both in Cincinnati or Ohio. So there you go.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So
I will have to get in touch with them.
Well, definitely. So IQ and Puck follow Justin on Twitter. The link is below. Follow, and you guys get in touch, and maybe you can do a little atheist roundup shit or something at a pub or something one day. But yeah, dude, we're at the top of the hour.
Go.
So why don't we carry this conversation on in an after party?
I'm down with that.
All right. So you got more beer there. You said you had at least a 6-pack.
I do got more beer. I'd like to step out for a smoke.
Yeah, me too.
You would like to.
After I close this off, I say I take a break. I do have a quick pee, throw a couple more beers in the cooler, and go have a quick cigarette, and then come back in, and we'll jump in about 10 after or so.
That works.
All right. Well, Justin, dude, thanks so much for joining me today, man.
No, for real. Thank you for bringing somebody. I feel like an ant at the bottom of a mountain, and I really appreciate everything that you do.
Thank you.
And I'll try and help you out as much as I can with the community that I currently have.
That'd be awesome.
And I'll try and bolster your stuff out to the people that I know.
That would be fucking fantastic, and I'll help you out as well, dude, because I know some of the I'm friends with some of the more well-known YouTubers, so we can easily get some of them to come on your show.
Absolutely, that would be.
You can have interviews with some of these guys, right? So I'll see what I can do. I'll definitely get them to follow you. Like, I'll talk to them. I'm in multiple chat groups with many of these folks, so I can say, listen, this guy does a show where he talks about stuff himself, and then he also talks to other people. And I think you guys would enjoy being on his show, because dude, you've got that personality that could do this real easy.
I appreciate that. I really hope so.
Good presence. You've got your chatter, which I am too, right? It's just I didn't shave today, so sorry about that.
Me neither. I'm glad I didn't have to go to my office.
Yeah. So Puck just followed you on Facebook. Oh yeah,
cool.
Puck's
Thank you.
Puck, make a Twitter account. Damn it, join the rest of us, for fuck's sake.
I just made mine about 2 hours ago. Come on.
Yeah.
Join the fucking group.
I pulled some strings, and he's like, all right, I'll make a fucking Twitter.
Yeah.
Damn it. Because it's easier for me, because if I've got the Twitter page and this thing open, then I could just pop the links back and forth for everyone that wants to be involved. And also, that reminds me, guys, if you guys like what I do here, there are also links below on how you can help support the show. Pick away any way that you want, and I would greatly appreciate any support I can get. Also, there are multiple links for Justin down below. You can hear his podcasts. You can also follow him on Twitter. You can follow him on Facebook. You can also follow the Empathetic Atheist on Facebook. I have a link for that as well. And I also have his webpage, which is a WordPress page, down below as well. And it has the links to his podcast there as well, which I also have a link to on the SoundCloud app, or SoundCloud page anyways. And yeah, that's about it. If you're interested in being in the after party, let me know. There's a link to the after party in the description box below, which I started doing recently. And we'll get going probably within about 10 minutes. So we'll see you guys over on the after party after this. And once again, send me a message either Twitter or Facebook if you want to be involved in the after party. And like I always say at the end of these things, oh, by the way, guys, thanks for hanging out and watching with us. Or listening to our nonsensical bantering back and forth. Until next time, guys, like I always say at the end of these things, like the late, great Christopher Hitchens once said, it's called faith because it's not knowledge. And we'll see you guys next time.